Welcome to Elevating Stories of Climate Equity. I'm Sylvia Ewing, and today we have the chance to learn about state and federal policies that impact the environment and climate equity. We'll break down what's happening and what it means for you and for your energy bills. We'll hear from many of my Elevate teammates and other special guests. They include Ann McKibben, Policy Director at Elevate, Colleen Smith, Deputy Director at the Illinois Environmental Council, Scott Allen, Environmental Outreach Coordinator at the Citizens Utility Board, and William Higgs, Community Resource Coordinator at Elevate. First, let's talk to Angelina Benson, Director, New Markets Initiative at Elevate, and Tricia Miller, Chief Innovation and Development Officer, also from Elevate. We're going to talk about federal policy and national updates. Hey, Angelina and Trish.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Good.
Thanks for hosting us.
I heard silence. I'm so glad that you're here because I have a new colleague and a dear colleague who is on the other side of the country. So Angelina, let me start with you. Tell us about your role at Elevate.
Thanks, Sylvia. I appreciate you having us on. I've been with Elevate for 9 years almost, and my role is really as Director of New Market Initiatives is to lead as Elevate has grown. We're headquartered in Chicago, but as we've grown outside of Chicago, I've been leading a lot of those efforts to expand our offices and our programs elsewhere. So as you mentioned, currently I'm in Oakland, California, where we launched a program almost 3 years ago now, and I've been working on the West Coast and also leading our high performance buildings work across the country. Most recently, I've taken on a new project to lead our Justice 40 Accelerator, which I think we'll be talking about tonight.
You will be. Thanks for that overview from O-Town. Now we're going to go to D.C. I can call it Chocolate City, and I'm going to. Tricia, tell us about your role as our newest colleague and a little bit about where you came from and why you're with us.
Sure. I'm thrilled to be a new member of the Elevate team. I joined about a month ago, based in Washington, D.C., and have been working at the intersection of green housing and affordable and community development for some time. And Elevate really brings together the best of program deployment and partnerships to advance climate solutions. So I'm thrilled to be joining the team and also excited to work across the organization as we seek new opportunities in this historic moment to unlock new public investment in climate equity and climate justice.
Well, that's a great segue because I'm speaking with colleagues who are on opposite ends of the country, but there's a lot that you do which is relevant to folks here in Illinois and in our region. Tricia, let's start with the Biden-Harris Justice 40 initiative. What is that?
Sure. So this started as a campaign promise from Joe Biden before he was elected. But it's really become part of the ethos of this administration and the federal agencies following the guidance that just this week came out of the White House to direct all of the agencies to really take a hard look at the public programs that they operate and the federal funding that they're responsible for administering to ensure that 40% or more of the benefits of public dollars going into clean energy and climate solutions are benefiting distressed communities. So the underserved communities, communities of color, low and moderate income households in the affordable housing context in terms of how federally designated programs operate, that's really that nexus of looking back at underinvestment and looking forward in building assets and community wealth and transformation for justice communities that have so often been left behind. This is a chance to really reset the expectations and commitment to securing equitable climate solutions in communities across Illinois, in Chicagoland, and across the country through that new lens.
Well, we appreciate that. And we know that our partners sometimes and our federal government, they use the language that works for them. We always try to center the humanity before the condition, but we go with what we have to apply for these grants. Tricia, why does it, well, let me come to you, Angelina, actually. Why does the accelerator matter and what is it?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So knowing that this is a historic moment to really get federal dollars deeper into the communities that have been historically disinvested, we really felt like this was an opportunity to help community-based organizations get ready to apply for federal funding. So we saw that there's a need. Federal funding it's a long, arduous application process. So organizations need support. So we created the Justice 40 Accelerator to be able to provide project pre-development funding to organizations, as well as technical assistance, capacity building workshops, some one-on-one support to really enable them to apply for funding and bring those dollars into their community and be able to implement projects. So it's really about getting organizations to the point that they're really ready to apply and bring those dollars to their home communities.
Yeah, it's far too often the people who need the support the most can't get it because they don't have the capacity, the time, the staff to do those arduous application processes. Tricia, why does it matter?
One of the points you made earlier, Sylvia, that part of this is reshaping the way the agencies talk about and invest in communities. So I outlined the parameters from the White House's recent guidance to the agencies to invest in just what they consider to be distressed communities, what we see as communities of opportunity and reinvestment. So I think it matters on a number of fronts, but at the center of this work, I think it matters to better align the federal programs and federal spending to support community investment and transformation, so that we see the kind of outcomes that we're hearing from our partners in frontline communities, the resources that they want, the partnerships that they can lead with better funding and access to opportunities for federal agencies from DOE to HUD to USDA and so on, to come to the table and look at public investment through this new lens. That's to me where we will see transformation of federal programs and rebuild trust and support the dignity and future of the communities that these programs are designed to support, but have historically missed the boat, frankly, in terms of providing the right opportunities and our taxpayer dollars to lift up and advance the kind of community solutions that we see at Elevate on the ground every day. So the proof's in the pudding. We'll see, what comes out of this process. And as Angelina spoke so eloquently about, we have an opportunity to use the accelerator to showcase what that future could look like and to build the capacity and provide private funding for the organizations that can then inform federal agencies and help advance new policies that better speak to the community and asset building approaches that we'd all like to see.
That's great, co-creating a different world. But Angelina, what are we hearing? Where are we in the process? I think the application, the open application has closed for now. What are we hearing and where are we?
Yeah, the application closed last Friday. So we're reviewing all the applications. We have an external review committee doing that process so that we can notify those applicants that will be accepted into the accelerator in early August. What we're learning is the need is great, organizations need pre-development dollars. They need capacity building support. They really do need technical assistance in the form of grant writing support. That is huge. There's a lot of grant writing support that's needed for these applications, as well as data and research support. And one thing that people are pretty excited about too, through the accelerator, we're going to partner with, we're going to help organizations or find partners that we're calling ally organizations. And so they're excited about that. And these ally organizations could be partners in applying for funding, or they're just connectors and relationship builders. So that's what we're hearing. The need is great, and local organizations are excited.
I know that the website had a section for people who wanted to just learn more. Is that still up and running?
Yeah, so within the accelerator, we actually do have a pathway for organizations that aren't quite ready to apply for funding, but do want to learn more about the process. So there will be some organizations that are participating that are still early on in their readiness journey. That being said, we will have resources available on the website, resources about funding opportunities, and resources as well about how to go through the application process. So though we can only accept a certain number of applicants into the accelerator, we are hoping to really provide information broadly.
And which one of you can tell me who the partners are? I know Elevate is one.
It's so Elevate is partnered with Groundswell, which is based in Washington, D.C., as well as the Partnership for Southern Equity based in Georgia, the Hummingbird Firm, which is based in Georgia, and the Solutions Project.
Very good.
Which is based in Oakland, California.
Got to get that name check out for our allies. We couldn't do it without their collaboration, and it's so exciting to see nonprofits coming together to make a difference and to be door openers in a space where there's been a lot of gatekeepers. Tricia, I'm going to come to you with your knowledge about opportunities emerging on Capitol Hill. And if you don't mind, just give us a little thumbnail about where you've worked and why you have such great Washington experience.
So I've had the privilege to serve under President Obama to advance the climate action plan while I was at HUD. And in that role, worked across the agencies, primarily with the Department of Energy and in the federal housing programs to try and bring together clean energy deployment and energy efficiency and leverage the federal government's purchasing power and partnership opportunities to support community development and climate solutions. That is part of the reason I'm so excited to be here at Elevate today, because it's bringing home in Illinois and across the country the chance to implement programs anchored in community transformation and climate equity.
That's so important to us. That's one of the reasons that we center equity, equity through climate action in our narrative of who we are. This opportunity to let the scariest and most pressing issue of our day, which is the climate crisis, the solutions to that can also provide long-term solutions to the seemingly intractable inequities and challenges we've had in our communities. So Tricia, just staying with you, how do you see opportunities emerging on Capitol Hill that might support this agenda and help us here in Illinois?
We're at a really interesting time right now with the Senate and House negotiating over the infrastructure bill, which has bipartisan support, but is hanging in the balance. And we'll see in a matter of days how some of those issues get resolved. And if we have billions of dollars going into the nation's infrastructure and longer term recovery. Adjacent to that, there's a reconciliation package that is being negotiated, which has many elements of energy and building decarbonization attached to it. We don't have visibility into that process, but we're optimistic that there will be billions of dollars committed to climate solutions, building decarbonization, electrification, and high performance buildings. So we're eager. We'll be following that process. I think for the viewers out there, there's opportunities to advance the leadership of state and local governments who are looking at federal partnerships and standing by, eager to deploy more resources to the communities who need it and can help be part of this longer term recovery through climate justice.
Thank you. That's a great overview. And we know that we'll be talking with guests in a little bit who will give us an update on what's happening here in the state and Governor Pritzker's support for a comprehensive clean energy jobs bill. But Angelina, before we go, just tell us what's next for the Justice 40 Accelerator and how can people learn more or tap into the process?
Yeah. Anyone interested, I highly recommend to go to our website, www.justice40accelerator.org. If we're looking for individuals and organizations interested in supporting the participants, either by providing technical assistance or through allyship. So please go to our website and let us know if you're interested in providing any of that support. And we are going to be launching this accelerator in August. So stay tuned for more information. We're really excited about this opportunity to help community-based organizations get ready and submit funding applications and bring dollars into their community for projects, because ultimately we know that the folks on the ground have the solutions. They just need the resources. And this is a historic opportunity to bring those resources to the communities.
What are you looking forward to? What most excites you on the local, state, federal policy front, or just any change that you might see happening around people's awareness of climate justice and the climate crisis? And I'll come to you, Tricia.
So I'm excited to see projects get a jump start through this longer term recovery, and hopefully as a result of some of those investments that are being negotiated on the Hill today. I look forward to coming to Chicago and seeing more rooftop solar and minority and women-owned businesses that are getting training and building electrification and decarbonization. As Angelina said, we have a lot of the solutions. We have the talent rooted in the community, and now's the time to double down on the public investments and private support to bring those projects home.
Thank you. And Angelina, what do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are realizing that the climate crisis is very real with a lot of what we're experiencing lately. And so I'm excited about the opportunity to get dollars into projects and for folks to see that climate solutions intersect with workforce development. They intersect with the economy. Like this really matters. So I'm excited for the dollars to start flowing and the projects to start happening on the ground. I think there's so much that's needed, and we're going to make it happen.
Well, thank you so much for your work and your resilience and your enthusiasm. Thank you, Angelina, and thank you, Tricia. Coming up, I'll be talking to Ann McKibben, Policy Director at Elevate, and Colleen Smith, Deputy Director at the Illinois Environmental Council. When we talk about hanging in the balance, there's some legislation hanging in the balance for sure. But first, let's hear more about Elevate's grassroots energy education from a team member and an ally.
I have the pleasure of managing a phenomenal team of folks throughout the state of Illinois who hit the ground running and do grassroots energy education so that people can learn smart and efficient ways to reduce their energy bills and lower their carbon emissions.
They're here to listen, to understand your needs, and to improve our services.
If you'd like to connect with Elevate to participate as a community partner, you can contact us on our website or call us using the telephone number below. to connect with one of our community outreach coordinators. We love to come to your neighborhood to visit you. We also host virtual house parties. So if you and some of your friends would like to get together with us on Zoom and learn how to save money on your energy bills, we'd love to hear from you.
Welcome back to Elevating Stories of Climate Equity. I'm Sylvia Ewing. Earlier, I had a chance to talk to Ann McKibben, my colleague, the policy director at Elevate, and Colleen Smith, the dynamic deputy director at the Illinois Environmental Council. Let's take a look. And I'm delighted to dive into this conversation with friends, sisters in the battle for positive social change, and I would say two people who are on the front lines of helping protect our Earth. That seems like a big deal, but I'm not exaggerating because of the work that they do. Ann McKibben, give a little wave, Ann. My colleague from Elevate, Director of Policy, and looking great this morning, Colleen Smith, Deputy Director from the Illinois Environmental Council. So we have so many questions as a society about what happens in our state legislature, but we never slow down to ask them. And it always feels overly complicated. So in our brief conversation today, let's see if we can shed some light on legislation that's happening in Illinois around clean energy and how things work. And when we're done, I hope people will have a better understanding of what work is taking place, what it means, and why it matters. Is that a fair, and I'm not asking you to change the whole world as I asked millennials to fix the things that boomers broke. But today, I know you guys can do this. So first, Colleen, what is the Illinois Environmental Council and what do you do as Deputy Director?
Well, thanks, Sylvia. It's a pleasure always to see you. And this is really fun to get a moment to chat about our work today. The Illinois Environmental Council represents over 100 environmental organizations across the state, kind of formed to be a collective voice for the environmental community. So we represent all of those members on every issue from clean energy to clean water, transportation, local food, waste, you name it, touches the environment and how we need to be fighting for a cleaner, more sustainable future. And we're advocating at the state legislature, usually the city of Chicago and other municipal interests, and increasingly at the federal government with everything that's happening there. And trying to build the power of the environmental community so that we can pass the policies we need for the climate.
Well, thank you. And it can't just be good intentions and I wish, I wonder. It really takes active work. And Ann McKibben, tell us about your role at Elevate as a policy director. We've had you on before, you're a return guest, but give us a thumbnail of your work as well, please.
Sure. Thanks, Sylvia. It's great to see you. Great to see you, Colleen. Well, Elevate, as you know, is a nonprofit that designs and implements energy efficiency, solar energy, workforce, water, clean and healthy housing programs, variety of programs. And so what I try to do as policy directors work with my colleagues in the policy department to bring the things that we're learning from those programs into the policy discussions in Illinois and in other states where we work, just to make sure that those discussions are as well informed as possible. We see a lot of cool things that policymakers don't see. We're mucking around in people's basements, looking at their furnaces. We learn things from that. And so we want to share that to make sure that the policy discussions are as well informed as possible.
That makes sense. And I will update to say that we took energy out of our name because of all the things that we do that you mentioned. And for us, we want to do climate equity, climate action through equity. So that brings us to what has been going on for quite some time, legislation at the state level to bring a clean energy bill to Illinois. And so I'll stick with you, Anne. What's happening? Where are we? And what is the bill?
Yeah, well, right now, the parties are still talking about a comprehensive energy bill because the bill did not pass in the regular session. We have the summer. We're hoping to wrap it up and get to a point where we have a bill that can get through both houses with hopefully because it's summer, it would have to be a supermajority, so more than half of each house. So we're still talking. Yeah.
Still talking. Colleen, how does it work? Why is it so challenging to pass legislation in Springfield? And, what do you think about the status of this bill? 3 questions.
Yeah. And Anne touched on it well. We are still trying to find a way forward because there are really entrenched interests that we're fighting against that have historically held power in a process that's supposed to be confusing, that's supposed to shut out the public, right? I mean, we've been building up our grassroots support, showing in every part of the state that there is support for climate action and that legislators need to be responsive to that. But we're not the only stakeholder calling for this. And when we have fossil fuel interests who stand to gain only if we do nothing on climate, that can be really hard to fight against. So if it was easy, it maybe wouldn't be the most comprehensive, equitable bill that we want it to be, right? And so we're not done fighting because we reached for the moon and we want to deliver the type of future that Illinoisans deserve. So I think that's really where we're not done giving up on that vision. And we're continuing to demonstrate that to legislators, but it will take time to build the support that we need to pass those policies. It is an infuriating process often. And I know from the outside looking in, it's very frequently, why hasn't Illinois acted? We fortunately have, over the last 2.5 years, built support with Governor Pritzker, who is such a strong ally right now in the type of vision we need to see in clean energy and making sure that we have a fossil-free future for Illinois. And we need the General Assembly to meet the governor there and deliver on this promise.
Well, thank you so much. That's a very comprehensive overview from both of you. And in many ways, these talks mirror what is happening in the greater society. When you talk about people who have had privilege, having to think about how to share that on being the demands to make change. And there's a lot of uncomfortable conversations that take place on boards, in living rooms, in families. In the end, we want what's best for all of us, and making space and having equity at the core has proven to be what's best. You can't leave people behind, right? But the other thing is climate change is coming for all of us, and we see it every day. So building consensus and understanding the motivation behind people who are dragging their feet on that consensus is really powerful and really important.
To your point that you just made, and kind of what we were touching on, the people who have dictated policy at every level of government have so often not been the people or looked like the people who are most impacted by that. Climate change disproportionately impacts Black and Brown communities. We know that unequivocally. And that is not often who has been leading conversations in our legislatures. We have the first Black speaker of the Illinois House of Representatives ever. Still do not in the other chamber or our highest executive office. So we are talking about transformational changes to get the type of policies that we need.
That's exactly right. And McKibben, what excites you about this work, and what do you think our best future might look like? Your happiest dreams?
Yeah, well, there's a lot that excites me about this. I'm excited to see, we've, as Colleen mentioned earlier, building power behind climate action and equitable climate action. That's happening statewide. I'm super excited to see how well all the various advocacy organizations are working together, how committed people are to equity in this work. And I'm excited to see the geographic scope of the folks who are working on these issues, that it is truly statewide, and really we got a deep bench, which is so exciting. So I'm excited about that. I'm super excited that, we've got so much interest in not just the policies, but in the things that are going to come out of them, the job training, or the industries. These industries are nascent in our state. They're not in other places. We're a little bit behind, but I'm excited to see them grow. And I'm excited to see us put in place policies that ensure they grow in a way that is equitable and that allows all communities to access those industries and really benefit from them.
Walk us through how this works. Someone, how does something become a bill? How does it become a law in the state? And tag team, I'm going to tag you first, and give us your thoughts.
Sure. Yeah, well, just from a process standpoint, first off, a legislator works with either an advocacy organization that's working in their district or their constituents to put together a bill. It's introduced in either the House or the Senate, or often they'll be introduced in both, with two legislators. And then it has to go through a process of going through a substantive committee that looks at all the bills about a certain subject area and decides which should move forward. And then it gets voted on, and then it goes to the other chamber and does the same thing over again. That's the process. But along the way, of course, that sounds super easy, but there's a million ways to kill a bill. And really the important part of the process is convincing legislators that they need to support a bill. And that comes really from constituents showing up and talking in their district with their legislators.
And the constituent
Colleen excels at.
That's the folks at home, the people who live in the communities are the constituents. Thanks, yeah. Anne. I appreciate that. That would be a very bad song, but I like the title, How to Kill a Bill.
88 ways. Yeah.
A million ways. And Colleen, that's a great overview. What is it like to be in these rooms? Because I know that our colleague Delmar Gillis has been engaged. There are more Black and Brown people in the room versus outside the room waiting to hear what's going on. What's it like?
Yeah, and Anne gave such a great overview of the legislative process, and also how sometimes it doesn't follow that linear line, right? And it's not a Schoolhouse Rock forming as we always want it to be. And that's, again, part of that chaos that is a strategy, right? To make it more difficult for regular citizens to participate in what these decision-making processes look like. And I think that's what's really frustrating sometimes about being in a room where you're asked to negotiate with other interests. That's a lot of power given to a select group of people. And I'm most excited, to build off of what Anne said, that the Clean Jobs Coalition has developed such a strong and diverse bench of experts that make up communities impacted, and that they're the ones who are being brought into these rooms, because I can do my best to represent our community, but I can't truly represent our community fully, nor do I have the perspective shaped by living in an environmental justice community. And that is so critical. So I think what's difficult about the room sometimes is noting who's missing. And that doesn't happen unless we bring people in. We show that legislators need to be responsive to communities they haven't historically been. And it's about building champions in those communities, certainly as well, so that they're not speaking for typical entrenched interests. They're speaking on behalf of their community that they represent. So that's a little bit about what it's like. And I think we're shifting in that direction. I think there's a lot of acknowledgement in our society, as you touched on, Sylvia, that we can't do things the way that we have. And certainly having utilities largely shut out of the room in this energy policy conversation is unlike anything that has ever happened before in energy policy. So we're getting there slowly but surely.
Well, thank you for that. That authentic voice and people speaking in the first person about their lived experience is invaluable. And it's exciting to be on the cusp of a time when we see more and more of that occurring. And I know as a former journalist, people hated to cover Springfield. It was confusing, it was far. And I believe that is what allows it allows people who may not have your best interests at heart to get away with things. Shedding a light, making things transparent, bringing more people in the room and explaining what's in it for voters is critical. So give me just a thumbnail, each of you, what is in it for voters? What will it mean for their rates? What will it mean for their health? What will it mean for their future? And I'll come to you for that.
Yeah, well, for our health and our future, it's absolutely critical. Scientists tell us we have to decarbonize our society by 2050. And that's 30 years from now. And it seems like a long time, maybe. But if you work in the energy industry, it is not a long time. It takes that long to build a power line. So we've really, if we want to avoid the worst consequences of climate change, and they're bad enough now, we've got to take these big steps towards decarbonizing our society. So what's in it for us is avoiding the worst flooding, avoiding health impacts, heat, things like that, among other things.
Thank you, Colleen.
On the negative side.
I would totally agree with Anne. It is about taking the action Illinois needs now to meaningfully address climate change. And I also think about it as demonstrating what a clean energy future looks like in a very community-driven way that is shaped by that community. Once again, it's easy to talk about things like solar energy and energy efficiency and job training, but that doesn't mean a lot unless people see it in their own backyards with their neighbors, and they have those experiences around what a clean energy future can look like and should look like for them. And I think there's a lot of things we're doing in this comprehensive energy legislation that will have more localized decision making and will make sure that all communities have increased access to solar and clean energy, have greater access to energy efficiency programs, job training, et cetera. And that's really important, so that the benefits that we're hoping come from this legislation are realized in every community, because that will build the kind of power we need to continue to take the action on climate change that we need.
Change can be scary, and change when you've been in power might be scarier, but we can do this together. And we've got a governor and leaders who want to take action. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that it happens. Let's say we'll keep our fingers crossed that it happens quickly. It's going to happen. It's inevitable that we have a comprehensive clean energy bill that has equity at the core, but time is of the essence, right? It's been great to speak with you, Colleen and Anne, and get to share both your perspective and the work that you do, and to help our audience understand why it matters to them. Thanks, and I hope you come on again.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Anne. Thanks, Colleen. Again, I want to thank Anne McKibben, Policy Director at Elevate, and Colleen Smith, Deputy Director at the Illinois Environmental Council. What a great conversation. Coming up, I'll be talking to Scott Allen, Environmental Outreach Coordinator from the Citizens Utility Board, our big allies, and William Higgs, Community Resource Coordinator at Elevate, on my team. But first, let's learn about Elevate's grassroots energy education for our Spanish-speaking viewers.
Nosotros ayudamos a nuestras comunidades cómo aprender a salvar dinero en energía y también cómo hacer su hogar más cómodo y eficaz sobre energía. Y también queremos escuchar sobre ustedes y aprender de su comunidad.
They're here to listen, to understand your needs, and to improve our services.
If you'd like to connect with Elevate to participate as a community partner, you can contact us on our website or call us using the telephone number below to connect with one of our community outreach coordinators. We'd love to come to your neighborhood to visit you. We also host virtual house parties, so if you and some of your friends would like to get together with us on Zoom and learn how to save money on your energy bills, we'd love to hear from you.
Welcome back to Elevating Stories of Climate Equity. I'm Sylvia Ewing, and joining me now is Scott Allen, Environmental Outreach Coordinator at the Citizens Utility Board, also known as CUB, and William Higgs, Community Resource Coordinator at Elevate. Welcome, Scott and William.
Hello, Sylvia.
Hi, Sylvia. Great to be here.
Thank you. I'm going to start with you, Scott. Could you tell us a little bit about CUB, your organization, and the work that you do?
Sure. So CUB has been around since the mid-'80s. We are a utility watchdog in the state, and a lot of our work focuses on direct consumer outreach. So I'm part of the outreach team, and we talk to consumers all over the state about, paying attention to their utility bills. And if they have a complaint with the utility, we walk them through that process to get that complaint resolved. But we also get involved with policy at the state level. We represent consumers in front of the Illinois Commerce Commission, so we're always fighting to keep rates lower.
Thank you. That's so important. And it's summer, those utility bills bear watching, right? William, tell us about your work as a community resource coordinator, and what community areas do you serve, and what resources do you provide?
Absolutely. So I work with the community resources team here at Elevate, and our primary purpose is to direct communities to the resources they have with respect to energy and utilities, be that directing them to consumer savings programs for their respective utility area, or informing them of any relevant changes to policy issues that might impact their bill or anything like that. I myself serve the Southern Illinois area. I'm based in Carbondale, so I do a lot of work in Central and Southern Illinois.
And I know the same issues that we care about here, they care about there. They just may have a different utility provider. Just sticking with you, William, how do you help communities?
Yeah, so I do a lot of work helping people sign up for consumer savings programs. I work in Ameren territory, so I do a lot of promotion of Power Smart pricing and peak time rewards. A lot of the other stuff that I do with the team involves general education, community education, consumer education around innovation on the grid, educating people about renewables and sustainability, and more general energy efficiency stuff as well.
And you're also a whiz with the digital media, supporting us there as well. Scott, what about you? How do you directly help communities?
A lot of ways similar to Elevate's outreach model. Cub takes a slightly different approach in that we work one-on-one with consumers, especially when they have problems, like I said, with a complaint with their utility, or they get a big surprise on their bill and they want to know why that happened. So we sit down with the consumer and we'll go over their bills with them and explain all parts of the bill, knowing what to look for as far as who your supplier is, and make sure that they understand that, and then direct them toward the resources to get financial help in some cases, or if they need mediation with the utility, we can direct them to the Illinois Commerce Commission. But we also talk through with consumers, much like Elevate does, about the energy saving programs that are available through the utility and about energy efficiency.
Who are the people that you serve? Give us a story of someone, Scott, that you may have helped.
More recently, kind of on a different topic other than energy, we do a lot of telecommunications help as well. And as everybody knows now, we're living in a streaming content world, so people are ditching cable. And there was a lady up in the suburbs a couple of weeks ago that said that she's interested. She's had cable for decades now, but she's interested in streaming. She doesn't know anything about it. So I worked with her to make sure that she had the right internet speeds, and kind of walking through a lot of those streaming options with her, and making sure that she's comfortable with the services that she's getting and how that might either probably reduce her bill. So it's just a lot of working one-on-one with consumers to make sure that they understand the changes that they're going through with their services.
Sometimes it seems like we're dealing with big bureaucracies and people feel alone and frustrated. It's so wonderful to know that there are resources available. William, give us an example of someone that you've helped. I've heard you tell stories in the staff meeting, so I know you've got one.
Yeah, so the most recent example I can think of is actually a lady from Chicago. So one of the things we've done on the community resources team is set up a dedicated hotline that people can call and can access one of us. And there's been a lady in Chicago I've been working on who has been facing some heating difficulties in her building. And she has a family home that she's had for a while. And she's been facing some weatherization problems and some very high electrical bills that have came with that. And I've been walking her through various consumer savings programs that she can access, as well as helping her apply for IWAP, the Illinois Home Weatherization Assistance Program. So that's, I think, the most recent example I can think of this sort of community resource navigation work that I've been doing with the team.
Thank you so much. Tell us how people can get in touch with you for more resources or questions. And I'll go to you, Scott.
Sure. Well, you can visit, the easiest way is to visit citizensutilityboard.org. On our website, you'll find a lot of resources there and how to get in touch. And our hotline number is also listed at the top of that website, but it's 800-669-5556. And so when people are having trouble with their bills like that and they need to talk to somebody, call that number and our Consumer Affairs Department can provide that help directly.
And Scott, just to stick with you for a minute, give us a couple of names of programs that people might want to ask about. We've talked about mediation with your bill. We've talked about savings programs. What are some of the programs by name that they can access working with CUB?
I would say that the one that comes to mind first is the LIHEAP program, or the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. And that's for people who, like I said, they are struggling to pay their bills. That gives them some assistance. And they access that through local community action agencies. And we can help direct people to those action agencies, usually in their county. But that's the first one that people should be ready to take advantage of.
And does that work for heating, like in the winter, as well as the high air conditioning bills, or is it seasonal?
It's seasonal. It was intended mostly to help with the heating portion of it. So that opens up in the fall, first to seniors, and then it kind of rolls from there. And by December, it's opened up for everybody. but yeah, it's intended to, keep people safe in the harsher temperatures.
Thank you. And William, what about you? Name one of the programs that you work with and that you could recommend to people.
Absolutely. So LIHEAP is a wonderful program, and during the COVID-19 pandemic, because of a recent executive order from the governor, the eligibility restrictions are somewhat lightened or loosened on that. So LIHEAP is great, and I would encourage people who have any sort of arrearage to consider LIHEAP. IWAP, the Illinois Home Weatherization Assistance Program, is another one I would direct people towards if you are experiencing any sort of weatherization problem with your home that's resulted in an uncomfortable temperature or health concerns.
And that weatherization, the healthy home leads to better bills, right? And it leads to healthier communities. Thank you both so much for the work that you do, for sharing information. We know how to reach Scott. How do we reach you, William?
Yes, you can visit our website at elevatenp.org. You can also visit the Community Resources team at the Elevate Community Events Facebook page, or you can call us on our hotline at 833-204-1992.
And before you go, because you mentioned events, give us 30 seconds or so on the outstanding fun events that you have on Facebook.
Yeah, so every week we have a fireside chat event where some of my colleagues come on and I produce it behind the scenes. We also have a semi-regular event called Trip Down Energy Lane, where my colleague Anthony goes through some historic building preservation things. That's more of a Chicago-centric event, but it is also very fun, and I would encourage anybody to watch it.
Yeah, we've had some of the colleagues on. They're funny and they're smart. So thank you, Scott and William, for joining us. It was great talking to both of you. It's wonderful when our organizations can come together to make life just a little bit better for folks. I would like to thank all of our guests for today: Angelina Benson, Tricia Miller, Ann McKibben, Colleen Smith, Scott Allen, and William Higgs. Also, thanks to our partners at CAN TV. On our next show, we'll be talking about solar in Illinois and much, much more. I'm Sylvia Ewing. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.